Great. I wish you lots of failure so that you can succeed on the backside of it. At the same time, I would say that the most successful people are those that have failed the most.
Why people are so afraid of the failure if this is something which is adding on the excitement in your life? Why people are afraid of it instead of taking it as an opportunity to learn something new or to flourish or to brush up their own self or their skills?
Because we're nuts. I mean, I don't know. It's
Hey, Suzanne, how are you? And welcome back to the third session of this Sife Talk.
I'm well. How are you? It's great to be back and to see you again.
Yes, I'm doing great. And it's really lovely listening to you. And I really like having sessions with you. And it's really great that you are starting your sessions with us.
Well, this is really terrific. And today's topic will be an interesting one. Yeah. I think in many respects, because it advances concerns of many of us.
Yeah, I believe it is related to every single person living on this earth. He's facing these are the problem. And the topic is failure management. You know, we all fail, but somehow people teach us that you don't have to fail in your life, which is impractical. We have to fail. We just simply need to learn how to manage that. For that concern, we are going to get that immense knowledge and experience that you are going to share with us. So the topic would be failure management. So to begin with, before we talk about the management thing, first define the failure. Is it really what we are considering that, yes, if a person fails in school, if a person loses his business, if a person sets some target and he's not able to do it, is it something that we consider that he has failed? Or is it more like something else? What do you think? What is the definition of the failure? And how would you define that?
Well, I'll accept that there are such things as failures, that other people see that one is undergoing and that we ourselves can understand that as well. At the same time, I would say that the most successful people are those that have failed the most. So if we turn that idea of failure on its head and welcome failure as an opportunity to really transform either what we're working on or the way things are taking shape, it's a very positive thing. So I would say, yes, we all fail. And yes, it's important that we encourage, allow, and nourish failure in others. But let's take it for what it is. As, if you're walking down a road and simply everything is smooth and everything is, perfectly clean, et cetera, it'll be a very boring walk. Let's look at what those impediments are and see the creative ways that we can go over them, go around them, reshape them, admire them for what they are as part of these transformative sort of monuments in one's life.
Yeah. So just as you are saying that it would be really boring if you're just succeeding in your life and you're not facing any sort of the challenges. Why people are so afraid of the failure if this is something which is adding on the excitement in your life? Why people are afraid of it instead of taking it as an opportunity to learn something new or to flourish or to brush up their own self or their skills?
Because we're nuts. I mean, I don't know. It's I will say that there must be something that we're hardwired in. I think there are definitely and historically failures that can be lethal, right? Whether we're talking car accidents, whether we're talking, I don't know, historically, in the prehistoric era, if you are someplace and a leopard comes and steals your baby, that's a failure that is really tough. And yes, you may learn other protective means, but I think there are some that are deeply harmful. And I would add that there are things in life that are just so painful for a society, much less for an individual, that it can take generations, even if that, to come back to it, like a major military attack that so much of one's culture is destroyed. I do feel that kind of thing can also have an impact. But for the regular things that we're seeing in life, if one still is standing and has the means to put food on the table, and the like, these are great experiences to grow from and to really transform the way we think about the world.
Yeah, just as you were giving us the example of that baby, that is no doubt indeed an irrecoverable loss. So, how would you differentiate between the losses that we bear and the failure that we face in our life?
Well, most of the things we face are by no means as life changing. Imagine a world in which the whole point of being on Earth is so that each year one can get a salary enhancement, and every 3 years you can move to a bigger home. I don't think that is a good way to think about life. I don't think it's a viable way, and I think it's that kind of Hollywood-driven imagery that is, behind part of this destruction. And I think it leaves out, a number of things that really are important for all of us in life. Basic things like service. I think we overlook the importance of that in bringing one's life back into a sense of a whole. And there are a wide variety of coping means for failure that help us and help everyone around us to use them in a positive way.
You're right. So, I mean, one of the major reasons why people are afraid of losses, are afraid of the failure, it's not because they themselves cannot handle it. It's about what society will think about them, how the people related to them will behave with them. So that is the biggest challenge. They are more afraid of it. That is why might be people go for suicides or people go for the negative things and all. So what do you think? How, when a person fails in any field, in any perspective, and he's so much afraid of his surrounding, of the people who he is connected with, how to take care of them, or how to tackle them, or how to deal with those people who are gonna might be make fun of him, or not gonna might be say anything to him, but he himself is afraid of those people. So what do you think that society, although is not accepting the failure the way they should, but how a person can behave in that circumstance?
Well, I think there are a couple of things, and you've really touched on two different vantages. One, what can I as an individual do about failure? And then what can I as a person do about somebody I care about and know who is facing that? I think those are two quite different things and equally important. I think for oneself, the most important thing is finding a way to put on blinders, like horse blinders. So, and to kind of go deep along channels that sort of lie outside of that. I mean, what I do, I love writing. And if I can get myself into 15 minutes of writing or moving around images in relationship to a writing project, I forget everything else. My world is transformed. And I think finding positive things that one can do to kind of immediately provide sustenance and support is an important thing. I think at the same time, the worst thing one can do is to isolate and to, one could say, even eat that failure, because that's terribly destructive. And so finding friends in various places, and sometimes social media can help with this as well. You don't want to spend your life focused on failure, but if something's happened and you are able to express it, when it gets the news out there, so that I think the real worry is somebody's going to ask me, somebody's going to know. And if you put the words out there already, it's done. And then, if there's circumstances around that are complicated, like they chose to terminate, the entire department, then the word is out there. I think when it's somebody else here, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a family member, wrap your arms around them. And I think provide them with real support. I mean, sometimes I'll see a student who's suffering for whatever reasons, and one doesn't always know, sitting at the back of the class close to the door. And I went up to this person, last week and said, "Hey, I'd love to see you in the front row. Come sit near me." And then I could look down and see this person and occasionally reach out as talking in class. So I think it's of two different things. On the one hand, you're putting blinders on yourself so that you can move forward and so that you can get it out there. And two, you're helping others to try to address this and realize that oftentimes what is a failure in our minds, it's not a failure. Right. Every time I go into a bookstore, I feel, oh my God, everybody has written all of these books, but I have not. That's my comparing myself with the world at large, which is totally unfair. And so I just laugh at myself because that's the way I am, and so finding a sense of humor in all of this is, I think, important too.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's a very great statement. I really admire that what you are considering that you have failed might be it's not the failure in the real sense, might be it's just in your own perception. That's a very good perspective. All right, moving on.
Let me just add, and sorry for interrupting, that one of the great skills in life that I have to work at, and in the end I've succeeded at it, but this I would say of people I know here at the university who are the most groundbreaking and successful, they've learned how to forget. So address whatever is happening, and et cetera, and then have it wash off your back. And I promise you, in a couple of years, you won't even remember it happened. Or you won't remember it happened in a particular way. And so that ability to forget is something that you have to nurture and celebrate.
Great. There is a very common training nowadays out there, which is called the learning how to learn. And I believe after this, after listening to you and your suggestion and whatever is your outcome of your experience, we should also create a training on how to forget things, because it's such a difficult thing. We are losing relationships, we are losing businesses, we are losing a lot in our life just because we are not forgetting what happened in the past, and we have to move on. It's so simple to say move on, but still it requires a lot of struggle, and sometimes nobody is there to guide us. That's a great thing here. We have to learn how to forget things. Okay, that was from the individual perspective. But Suzanne, what if I ask you that how can we teach society? How can we build the mindset of the society or the people around us, might be of the country or might be as a whole world or as a generation, that failure is also the part of the process? It's not a disease. It's not something negative. If somebody fails in his life, that doesn't mean he has lost everything and he cannot stand up once again. So how can we change the mindset of the people that it's possible, the people can fail? We have to accept it and we have to support that person instead of considering that person as a deceased person.
Yeah, I mean, to my mind, the best metaphor, the best way of visualizing that is many of us live in homes where there's more than one door, right? You've got two doors of access and you've got a closet door and other doors inside it. And I think that life is like that. When one is focused on success, whatever that means, and often it's it's a strange model for how one should actually act or be present in the world. We often see it as one door at the top of a staircase. And the reality is that there are many, many doors and many, many avenues of entry and of exit. And I think that oftentimes when one door closes, many others open. And I can give you an example. I have a book that's coming out next June. It's a history of Cambridge from its indigenous beginnings to today. And I did it in an unusual format. It's intended for young people and their adults. And I hired an artist and worked on it. And I couldn't get a publisher for the life of me. I must have had 30 plus emails back saying absolutely not, it doesn't fit, et cetera. And that's of those who even cared to respond to me. And I was about to publish it on my own, and one of those last ditch efforts. Being dogged is a key thing in life. I emailed a publisher in New York, and the email returned, right? It didn't get through. So I said, well, that's interesting. So I looked up and found the email address of the publisher himself, the owner, and emailed them and said, sorry, my email returned, but I just wanted to make sure that you got it. And he got back to me immediately and said, let's talk. In other words, my failure, the fact that it did not go through, and that whole series of failures led me to this almost serendipity where my email stood out because it had failed to get through. And at this juncture, what people say is to publish a book of this sort, for largely children and their parents or teachers, it's 0.03% chance of getting published. It's 7 times easier to get into Harvard as a student. And thank goodness I didn't know what those odds are, but it's looking for those anomalies, I think, and realizing, I was ready to do it on my own, but, failure can lead in positive directions. And I think looking for white spaces, they're called, it's a strange term, but within any hierarchy, there's places of oxygen where you can move around and through and find other avenues rather than focusing on the chart itself, a pie chart or a graph where every person and their place in order are positioned. Look at all that white space between them. Those are the places that generally people have greater freedom to move. And once you begin to be identified with somebody who's going to look for those places of freedom to make positive things happen, then that legacy of failure really becomes a legacy of somebody who's willing to step up and step around and really promote good results in sometimes difficult circumstances. We build a world so nobody can reach us, a fortress of sorts in these diagrams, and finding ways around them creatively is one way to go.
Great. So if we do that, so loss or the failure would be such a short-term thing that is happening. But if you just look out for the other venues, in the long run, you will be succeeded because you tried and you opened up toward you try to open up the new doors and the new opportunities and how you can make this worst situation in your favor. Yeah,
exactly.
True. Well, everything that you have said today, in fact, most of the things that you have said today, I believe those should be written bold on the walls out there because these are the real lessons of the life and how to handle the failure. The things that I have learned from you today and we got to know from today were, I believe, are really, really helpful. And it would be helpful for the listeners and for the viewers and for the failure as well, inshallah. Well, Suzanne, that is it for today. It was really nice talking to you as usual. And as you know that we are meeting once again for the 4th session of this Sife Talk that is going to be about how to handle criticism. That is the step 2 of what we are discussing today.
Great. I wish you lots of failure so that you can succeed on the backside of it.
I am. I'm just waiting for that success part now. So yeah, thank you so very much for giving me these wishes. And I hope to see you in the 4th session, inshallah. Till then, take care, stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.